Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode here on Gladiator Disc Golf. Today, we're talking about the Memorial Championship. Alrighty guys, so first things first about the Memorial Championship. If you haven't yet watched it, you need to go watch it, okay? It was an excellent tournament. Joe Pro covered the lead card for the MPO, and GK Productions covered the lead card for the FPO. And they both did absolutely fantastic jobs on the coverage, and we got to see so many great shots and so much movement up at the top of the leaderboards. It really was a great tournament overall. Going into this event, a lot of people thought that Paul Macbeth was going to be the favorite to win it, and he was. He was the favorite to win it, and we had good reason to believe he was going to win it. The way he dominated at the Wintertime Open gave us all indications that his ankle was healthy and that everything was going smoothly. He did not compete at the Las Vegas Challenge, and Nate Sexton won the Las Vegas Challenge, which was an excellent showing by him. So back-to-back, we have two guys who have been in the game for years just come out with dominating wins. Neither of those two guys won the Memorial Championship. We actually had some young guns come out and really dominate the field. Okay, so I have a couple people here that I want to talk about, point out some things about them, and just sort of give you my feedback as to how the entire weekend went. It was really good overall. First, we're going to talk about Eagle McMahon. The last time we saw Eagle McMahon play in front of a large crowd was at USDGC. And at USDGC, Eagle pretty much just let everybody down, not so much by his score, but by his attitude, to be completely honest. We know that he has struggled with his mental game at times, but he really let it affect his physical game. I mean, he went and broke his hand by punching the ground. Okay, so that definitely leaves a lot to be desired, especially as a competitor. He had to complete the entire final round of the USDGC throwing forehands. While he has a 500-foot forehand, that's not something you want to be limited to. However, he came out with such a strong showing. He was in the running for first place the entire weekend, and he was just doing really well and really showed that his hand wasn't bothering him. He didn't seem to have any weakness in it, in any of the grip or any of the power with the wrist snaps or nothing. Eagle looked great. He actually looked a little bit fuller than he did even just last year, and so you can tell his off-season regimen, his working out, his diet, everything is coming together, and hopefully Eagle can string together some great performances this year and really compete for a USDGC title or a World Championship title. This next one might be spoilers for those of you who have not yet seen the Joe Pro coverage of the Memorial Championship, but Calvin Heimberg, was phenomenal. He was absolutely phenomenal. You know, he's not a big social media presence, but he was doing something over the off season because he came to the Memorial Championship and was on fire from the get-go. I mean, inside 60 feet, the man hardly missed any putts. It was absolutely ridiculous, and when you putt that well, it led to him winning the Memorial Championship. And pretty convincingly so, even though Eagle did give him a run in the last round. I mean, there was no doubt that Calvin was playing well. And it was really just a matter of time before he or Eagle made a mistake, and it looked like Eagle made the mistake before Calvin did. And so Calvin continued with his strong performance from last year and just really played well here at the Memorial Championship. Someone that surprised me, and I haven't really been able to see a lot of coverage on, he hasn't been on a lot of lead or chase cards, but he was on, I think, 2 or 3 lead cards in this past weekend, was Drew Gibson. And talk about a guy with power. You know, when we talk about power throws, we talk about Simon Lizotte, Eagle McMahon. We even throw Paul Macbeth in there. We throw Garrett Gurthie. And yeah, people will mention Drew Gibson, but we finally, at least for me, finally got to see Drew Gibson in his entirety and just watching him throw. And the man was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he was probably, to me, the most fun to watch, because when everybody else was taking out distance drivers, he was grabbing a buzz and throwing it 500 feet. I mean, it's just incredible what he was doing with the disc, and it was just a lot of fun to watch him. Also, his putting was absolutely ridiculous. He was putting so well from distance, not just, tap-ins and inside C1, but even C2 putts, especially in the beginning of the weekend. He was knocking them down. Near the end of the tournament, I think once things started getting a little bit away from him, not so much that he wasn't, not so much that he wasn't doing what was necessary, but he wasn't keeping up with all the birdies that Calvin and Eagle were racking up. He started to show some weakness in putting, and basically it was just one of those, he realized he was losing touch with the lead every passing hole, and so he really, I think, struggled to maintain that focus that was required to finish strong in the last probably 7 holes or so. Paul McBeth. Now, like I said earlier, everyone was expecting Paul to sort of come into the Memorial Championship and dominate, and for the first 2 rounds, that's pretty much what happened. He was winning the first 2 rounds, but the 3rd round was super uncharacteristic of Paul. A lot of mistakes, and not like pars, but bogeys and double bogeys and going OB and just making a lot of mistakes that he normally doesn't make. Now, while this was not as big of a meltdown as what happened at USDGC, to me it did start to be like, okay, is he going to be able to come back from this? He did still finish, I think, 4 under on the 3rd round, which is better than I would have done, but definitely not the showing from Paul McBeth. It was good enough to keep him on the lead card for the 4th and final round, but it wasn't enough to keep him in touch with the leaders. Eagle and Calvin were just too many strokes ahead, that he was basically going to need a perfect round just to compete with these guys. And if they went on the hot streak and went 11, 13, 15 under, there was no chance he was going to have it. One thing that was really interesting about the event was in round 3, on Joe Miss Pro, Nate Sexton made a comment that one thing that Paul has said about his ankle is that everything is comfortable except backhand and hyzer shots. And there was a specific hole, I can't remember exactly which one it was, but he attempted a backhand and hyzer shot, and it was not the typical shot that Paul throws. And that just led me to start thinking, okay, he has admitted that kind of shot hurts the most, but is it possible that other shots are hurting him as well? He did post a picture about wearing a boot. He did clarify that it was just because he couldn't store it in his luggage, so I don't think he's re-injured it or anything, but I definitely do think that Paul is dealing with some discomfort, which is why I've noticed in his schedule that he's kind of playing a week, taking a week off, playing a week, taking a week off. I think allowing it to get that rest before the late spring and early summer starts, especially with Worlds being much earlier than it was last year. He wants to be ready for that, and so I think taking off some of these weekends where other pros are still playing and getting into the groove of things, he's taking some time off. Probably the next 3 are kind of letdowns from the weekend. The first one is Simon Lizotte. When we saw the Memorial Championship and the layout and just how long these holes were and really just how open they were, I picked Simon Lizotte in my Grip 6 on UDisc. I said, here's a guy with a ton of power and can really get a disc down the fairway and really has solid putting. And while he did finish top 10, it just felt like Simon was never in contention. And that's kind of disappointing because we've been watching his vlogs. If you haven't, go follow Simon Lizotte. Watch his vlogs. They're great. They're so entertaining and you learn so much from watching him. But having seen all that, I was expecting a little bit more from Simon in the beginning of the year. And I'm not trying to be too judgmental or anything, but I definitely thought that Simon would at least be top 5 at the Memorial Open. I really thought he would be top 5. So it's a little disappointing that he wasn't able to get quite there. The next disappointing player from the weekend was Ricky Wysocki. Now, we know that over the off season, Ricky was, especially at Worlds, Ricky started dealing with some Lyme disease, and he was going the more natural route and dealing with that. And while we may all have our opinions about that, for better or for worse, whether we agreed with him or we didn't, that's not what I'm discussing here. But it definitely seems like something was off this week, because he had a strong showing last week at the Las Vegas Challenge, and then just 1 week later, maybe something was off. Maybe it was his stamina, maybe it was his mental concentration, his physical ability wasn't quite there. So we definitely didn't see the Ricky Wysocki that we're used to seeing. It was still a top 20 finish, but Ricky was by no means the Ricky that we're used to seeing. And so that's definitely something to keep an eye on this year. What's it going to be like this year for him? What's his season going to look like? Is he going to have a good week and then fall off the next week or two and then come back once he sort of rehabbed from whatever it is, whether it's just fatigue and stamina? Something to keep an eye out for. The last disappointing thing, but really no fault of his own, was Nate Sexton. Coming off of a win at the Las Vegas Challenge, we were ready to see Nate Sexton come out to Memorial Championship and just absolutely dominate and finish top 3, maybe even win it. But in the first round, we hear that Nate was dealing with some soreness. I think it was on backhands, which is why he was being a lot forehand dominant, throwing a lot of forehands. And I think that soreness from the Las Vegas Challenge definitely inhibited him a little bit, and he wasn't quite able to compete at the same level that he was just 1 week prior. So definitely something to keep an eye on. I'm sure he's rehabbing. I'm positive he didn't tear anything. He finished the weekend, so if he had torn something, he wouldn't have been able to finish. He finished, still played pretty well, just not what we were expecting after someone who just dominated at the Las Vegas Challenge. That's basically it, guys. That's all I have for you. That is our wrap-up of the Memorial Championship. Coming up soon, we have Waco here in the next week or two, and that's going to be absolutely amazing. I have played that course before just for fun, not in a tournament, and the Beast by the Brazos River is definitely lives up to its name. It is an absolutely great course to play, so much fun, and I can't wait to see the coverage and how everyone does. Alrighty guys, well that's all I have for you today on Gladiator Disc Golf. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you next time, guys. Have a good round.